In 28 points. How about this Pelicans team? They went 20-13 since losing Boogie Cousins. Nick, how impressed are you by this team and AD getting to the playoffs?
Man, I wrote him off when Boogie went down. I thought the West was too tough this year. Now it's slightly overrated, I think, the overall quality of the teams in the Western Conference. But Anthony Davis has played like a guy who in a normal year would be a top-of-the-ballot MVP candidate. And this year, he's probably going to end up finishing third. But this team's success, he is going to get the lion's share of the credit, and he should. But we should not forget Alvin Gentry, and we should not forget the man you mentioned, Rajon Rondo and Drew Holiday. I didn't think their guard play was good enough. Their guard play's been better since Boogie went down particularly.
A great point by you. I'm glad that we can be the kind of show that points out coaches and give coaches some credit. The coach there has done an amazing job. Under difficult conditions, Boogie Cousins going down after they were performing at a level that we had never seen a 1-2 punch as far as big men perform at, but also Drew Holiday, his performance, Rondo. Man, he's playing some of the best basketball we've seen him play the last several years. And when you can groom a superstar to be a superstar the way they have with AD, great job by them.
And a good midseason acquisition of Mirotic, the guy that Bobby Portis punched from the Bulls. They brought him down. He's played well.
Knocked him out. Knocked him from Chicago to New Orleans.
Last night, the Nuggets beat the Blazers, keeping their playoff hopes alive. Also, the T-Wolves picked up a win against the tanking Grizzlies. On Wednesday, these two teams will face off for the last playoff spot in the West. Nick, who do you like there?
Ooh, man, oh man, I hope it's the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves, to me, are a much more interesting playoff team. The Nuggets will go and score a bunch of points, but they can stop absolutely no one. The Timberwolves, now that Jimmy Butler's back, now he's not playing a full minutes load yet, but I imagine in the playoffs he would. They have two legitimate superstars and a third guy in Andrew Wiggins who seems to want to be, or at least think he can be a star. I think Minnesota. I think Minnesota's the better team. I think Minnesota is the team with more playoff potential, and they're the team that I think will get that last playoff spot.
These are two very contrasting stories. Denver, with no expectations, had a great season.
Yep.
Minnesota, higher expectations. You can say, man, they didn't necessarily achieve what they thought they would. But also they missed significant time with Jimmy Butler here at the end. So they might have a 3 or 4 game lead if Jimmy Butler had been healthy. Minnesota is the better all-around team and definitely a better matchup for Houston in round number 1.
Tougher matchup for Houston?
Absolutely.
Okay, and when you say better, that's right. I want to make sure I understood what you were saying. Yep, I agree with you 100%.
And finally, let's talk some New York Giants. The team was happy Odell showed up to their off-season workouts yesterday. Odell's quarterback, Eli Manning, says he wasn't that surprised, because it's his job and he's getting paid, and that's sort of how a job works. Manning went on to add, quote, "I look forward to playing with him this year and for years to come." Chris Carter, do you expect these two to play together for years to come?
Yes, I'm one of the few people that thought when the Giants said they wanted Eli as their quarterback that they were being truthful. Eli has brought them 2 Super Bowls. I know the Giants are very, very fond of that, fond of his leadership, how he's handled the New York media after they made him that first pick in the draft. Yes, I look for, I think they'll re-sign Odell. So, yes, I look for them for play for a couple more years together. How long that's going to be, I believe that's irrelevant. But Eli has gotten the type of messaging from the Giants that has told him he's going to be there. There's no way on the first day of OTAs that he, as a veteran quarterback, would say that unless the Giants gave him assurances. And also they've assured him, man, we're trying to sign Odell. We're not trying to trade him. That's why Eli. So you marry those 2 comments together, you can find out what the Giants have told Eli about himself and his career and what they have said about Odell and moving forward.
So do these comments change, not even necessarily change, but affect your opinion on what you believe the Giants are going to do with that number 2 pick of the draft?
No, they don't have anything to do with each other.
Well, when you say Eli, that Eli wouldn't say this if he's not confident he's going to be there long term. He wouldn't say these things. Like that's why I'm asking. I just want to understand.
Well, no, they still might draft a quarterback.
Got it. Okay, so that's what I was. So when you say you're talking about the long term really being, as you mentioned, you didn't care about the length of it this year.
I mean, Eli's 37.
Right.
What's long term for 37? 2 years?
2 years is probably a long term, and that's the point.
And that's 2 years is a long time. Even if the quarterback was hot, if the guy was like Tom Brady. At 37, Nick, we had him. Hey, man, it's time to look for a replacement. Drew Brees. Because of the way he played last year, we'd be saying the same thing about him. Eli is coming into 37 not playing as well as these guys. So long term, If Eli don't play well during the season, he could get benched too.
That's the key point. That is, I learned last year kind of the hard way that maybe using the historical parameters as far as quarterbacks and their age and what their success could be, that in 2017 and 2018 you can throw those out. Like we've seen in the last 3 seasons, the best quarterback rating ever for a guy 38 years old or older, set 4 different times in the last 3 seasons. 3 times by Tom Brady, once by Drew Brees. It'll probably be broken again by both of them this year. So for players that are still playing at a super high level, the age doesn't seem that relevant. But the age does seem relevant for Eli, because his quarterback trajectory has at least followed more of what you would consider a conventional or predictable, normal. Yes. Where it's okay. So his best time was his early 30s. He had a bit of a resurgence a couple years ago with Odell. And then last year and really the year before, like you saw it tracking downwards. Now, I don't think he'll be as bad this year as he was last year because the Giants won't be as injured. They'll be better at the offensive line. Odell will be there for more than a couple of games. But of course, like, there is no real long term for Eli Manning when you're 37 years old and you're coming off a season where your passer rating wasn't in the top 20 in the NFL. Like, the long term for Eli is this season and maybe the next season.
Realistically, you pair these two together. What can they do based on what you saw last year? How big of a turnaround pairing these two could you see for the Giants?
They have to do some things offensively. They have to give Eli the protection that he needs. They have to have some type of running game. Nate Solder is coming over from New England as the left tackle. That should help him in pass protecting. But the Giants' inability to be physical from a running standpoint, that hurts the passing game. Brandon Marshall, he's had a good offseason. He's trying to come back from his worst season as a pro. So they can be one of the most prolific offenses as far as throwing the football. But throwing the football is not going to get them success in the NFL. They have to have some balance. And the Giants, the only time that they've won is when their defense has been outstanding.
Right.
So it's not only on Eli's shoulder, Odell's shoulder. It's that organization, that defense, and collectively what they're trying to do.
And the defense is where they've spent the lion's share of their money. Like, Eli's got a reasonable contract. Odell hasn't gotten paid yet. They don't, prior to signing Nate Solder, like, their offensive line wasn't super high paid. Like, their money was spent on those star defensive acquisitions in free agency the season before last and in drafting a guy like Landon Collins. Like, the talent and dollars would say the defense should be one of the 10 best in the league, which was their method in 2016. The offense wasn't elite in 2016. It was good enough to go along with a really good defense.
All right, if it feels like it's been a while since we talked about Andrew Luck playing football, it's because it's been a while since we talked about